What's up, folks? Today I'm going to be reviewing an old board game called Finance. This particular version of the game came out in 1958 and it is for 2 to 6 players. Now this game has a very interesting history. The original version of this game was made about the same time Monopoly was back in the early 1930s. And it was able to get created because Monopoly at the time was in the public domain. It wasn't copyrighted yet, so somebody made a finance game. Actually, at one point, it was outselling Monopoly, and Parker Brothers ended up buying it, I think, in 1935, and then they went ahead and reprinted and changed up the rules. And this version is the 1958 version. Anyway, the object of this game is you're trying to be the last remaining player standing and trying to basically bankrupt everybody else. Sound familiar? Also, you can do a timed version of the game if you would like to. You're going to be buying properties, selling properties, and moving around a lot in this game. So, let's show you finance. Okay, everybody, let's go over the components really quick. Right here you have your finance board, and as you can tell, this is a very plain looking board, but that's typical of games from the 1950s over here. Right here you have what are called chance cards. Anytime you land on a chance space over here, you're just simply going to draw the card and follow the instructions. Right here we have your pawns. There's 6 of these, and these are old school wooden pawns, and they're pretty nice. And of course there's 6 different colors. Right here you have what are called markers, and you're going to be receiving 8 of these of the color of your pawn. And what you're going to be doing with these is anytime you buy a property, you're going to place this marker underneath it. Now you're only going to be able to buy 8 properties at a time maximum, so once you run out of the markers, you're going to have to figure out another way to get the properties. Of course, right there you have your money. You're going to be receiving about $2,000 in the beginning. And we also have, of course, houses here. Now, there's houses of different colors, but you can use any kind of colors that you want. It doesn't really matter. You're going to basically be putting these on your properties in order to increase the rent value. And, of course, you have your dice here. One of the big rules in this is if you roll doubles, you're going to roll again. And anytime you do roll doubles, you'll just keep on rolling. Now, as you can tell, this game is very similar to Monopoly, but there are a lot of differences as well. But we'll go ahead and go over them. When you look at the properties over here, there's 3 different things here. It says house and lot with a price on it. Then it says extra houses with a price, and then the rent value. House and lot basically is how much it's going to cost to buy it when it is unowned. So if I were to go ahead and buy this property for the $300, I would go ahead and I would place this marker underneath it like so, and then I would also go ahead and place one house like so. Now the rent, anytime I want to buy an extra house, it's going to cost me that amount of money, and I'll be allowed to put up to 6 houses on any of the properties here. The rent value here is how much it's going to cost when someone lands on it. Now, anytime you add houses, this amount is going to go up incrementally. So if you have 1 house on here, it's going to be $150 for this property. 2 houses will be $300. 3 houses will be $600. 4 houses will be $1,200, etc. Also, when it comes to building houses, you have to make a full rotation of the board 1 time before you can actually start buying houses. Once you do that, you can buy as many houses as you want, and you can buy it for whatever properties that you own. Now, there are a lot of buildings in this game, but you can have a building shortage. If that does happen, there's a couple of ways you can get buildings. You can either wait for somebody to sell back one of their houses, or you can do a private trade with somebody. Now, you also have railroads over here. Now, railroads are not things that you can buy. This simply is going to tell you to pay a fare, and there's 4 different ones here. After you pay the fare, you're going to go ahead and throw the dice again. And there's some other spaces on here, like you'll pay $10 for account overdrawn. The Gaiety Theater, you'll pay $5 for each person that's in the game, etc. Now here's where you're going to start. Anytime you pass this space or land on it, you're going to receive $200, unless the instruction, it tells you that you won't collect $200 when you pass this space. Now this game has what is called a forced move. Basically what that means is if you land on somebody's space, say I went 1, 2, 3, 4, this person is going to have to move back 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then follow the instructions or pay the rent or buy a property or whatever. So that's a unique rule. If you decide to sell back the property to the bank, you're going to basically sell it back at half value along with the houses. And of course you can do private trades with somebody in this game as well. Now, as I said, there are 8 markers that you will have in this game to buy properties. So if you end up buying 8 properties and you have 8 markers, then you've used up all your markers. Now, if you end up landing on a property and you don't want it, you can go ahead and auction it off. The instructions don't have like a starting amount, so it can be basically whatever you want. If nobody wants to do the auction, then the land is going to remain unknown. Now, if someone lands on a property and you actually have used up all 8 of your markers and have bought 8 properties, and you want to try to get in on the auction, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to sell back one of your properties first at the half value in order to qualify to get into the auction. Now there is something in this game which is called the surprise move. Now on the corners here there's 3 different spaces. You got one that says miss the train, take the rowboat. And the rowboat's all the way over here. Then it says you'll pay $10 and it says rowboat to Socomorph. So then you go to Socomorph, which is over here. Then you'll pay $5 mooring charge, and then you will go to the carnival, which is over here. Now obviously you can land on these spaces separately, but if you land on this, you're basically going to go here, here, then here, and then here. Now what you're going to do when you go to the carnival is you're going to simply roll the dice. If you roll an even number, you're going to move forward. If you roll an odd number, you're going to move backwards, and then you'll just simply follow the directions. Now there is one space here also called Win Sweepstakes. Basically if you land on that, you'll win $50 from the bank, and then you'll roll the dice. And each player is going to have to pay you 10 times the amount of whatever this is. So in this case, each player would go ahead and pay you $70. Now, a lot of what this game is about is private trading. According to the instructions, this is a big part of the game, and that basically just means trading properties, making deals with people, just doing a lot of this wheeling and dealing in the game. And obviously the game is you're basically trying to get everybody to go bankrupt and being the only player left standing. If you're able to do that, you're going to win the game, but you can also set a timer or whatever on this game according to the rules, and you can just play for a certain amount of time, and whoever has the most amount of money at that time is going to win. So my final thoughts on the game Finance. Okay, well, I have to admit I have mixed feelings about this game. One thing I like is the fact that you don't have to get monopolies in order to buy houses. You can buy houses pretty quick in this game. I also like the fact that you can only buy a certain amount of properties because that can make the game interesting, because you may end up landing on a property that you might want to get later, but you don't have any markers, so you have to end up selling a lot for half of what it's worth in order to get it. The times my wife and I have played this game goes by faster than Monopoly if you're playing it with 2 players. Now, obviously, this is a very old game, and so there really isn't much of a theme to this game. It's a plain board, plain pieces, and that's basically synonymous with how they made games back then. Now, the things I'm a little weird about is how they made some of these spaces a little bit unorganized. You would have one space, for example, where you would pay a little bit of money and you get a pretty good rent value, and then further down the board you would have to pay more money to get a rent value that might be even less than some previous space. So it's kind of jumbled up a little bit. And another thing is, with the doubles rule and that little weird surprise move rule, you can end up moving around and bouncing around the board like crazy sometimes. The last time I played this game, I actually took 9 turns in a row. I ended up at the carnival probably 3 times because I kept landing on the rowboat, and then I'd end up landing on the railroad, which would mean I had to roll again, and then I would roll doubles, and it just went on and on and on and on. So it's a little bit quirky in that. The main thing with this game, according to what I read in the rules, is the trading. I think this is a part of this game that makes up the meat of the game. Now in Monopoly that is a factor, but I haven't really traded that much in Monopoly. It's not like I might trade once or twice or something like that just so I can get a Monopoly. With this game, it seems like this is more prevalent. So I think in this game you probably would need to have maybe more than 2 players in order for the full game's effect to be felt, if that makes sense. Because if you're not really wheeling and dealing, it might take away from the fun factor somewhat. Otherwise, you're just moving around the board and you're buying houses and you're just waiting to collect rent. All in all, this is not a bad game. I think the original 1930s version had different rules. I'm not quite sure what the changes were. But if you're a fan of the Monopoly series, you may want to give this game a try. It's not expensive. You can probably get a copy for about $15 on eBay if you want to get a copy. Is it more enjoyable than Monopoly? That is hard to determine for me because I haven't played it enough, and I think if I were to play it with more players, I'd be able to give a better assessment. So really, it's up to you. If you're into something, it might be something that you might enjoy, but I would recommend probably playing it with more than 2 players. So guys, that's my review of Finance. I hope you all have a great day. Keep on gaming.